Hello, good morning. Mr. Emmanuel, good morning. I would like us to just wait a few moments and see if other members will join in.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. So in order for us not to waste much time, because I know this is 10:23 already, I'm going to go right into the class and take up the lecture for today. So today we are looking at export operations and management, export operations and management. So I'm just going to be explaining like the intricacies of the export process, like the documents that you need to get your export done and some of the processes that you need to go through to actually do your exporting proper. So in this EMP, in this program, we are focusing more on exports, more on containerized exports. That's okay. If you are looking at uh, maybe exporting agricultural commodities or maybe metals, metal ore, or maybe any other resources that are gotten from Nigeria, and you want to be exporting them in containers, and which means you are going to be using the ocean freight, the ocean route at some of our ports in Nigeria. We have ports in Lagos, we have in Calabar, we have in Port Harcourt, we have in, I think we have two to three port destination in Lagos now. The one at Ibejuleki, the one in Apapa, we have the Tinkan also. So all these ocean freight that takes up containers, either 20 feet container or 40 feet container. So there are some documentation process that all this involves that will now allow you to be able to interact with the shipping company or with the shipping company. So like I explained in our previous classes, the value chain that we have in the export industry, like when you are moving your commodity, you don't interact directly with the shipping company. You still have to first maybe get to meet with whoever is going to be uh, acting or standing as your freight forwarder, who is now going to interact with the customs agent. The customs agent will assign some people or some pass some instructions to like a third party agent that will come and inspect your container, your shipment and all that before it's allowed to pass through into the port. So when it gets to the port is now when it's loaded on the shipping company's vessel, and after which they will release a bill of lading showing that they have the shipment in their care. So all these documents, everything that you have with you is now what you send to your to the importer, to your buyer at the end of the day, because those are the documents he's now going to use to clear the container over there. So for different countries that we can export to, different countries, they have different documentation, they have different requirements. If you are sending maybe, let's say, metallic ores to Asian countries like maybe China, or maybe, yes, let me just say like China, for instance, there are some analysis tests that China usually, that is done by companies in China. So they will tell you how they want it done, what they want you to do. Once the commodity gets to them, after you've sent them a quality analysis from here in Nigeria, they are still going to give it the same commodity to their own quality price over there. check out. Then for some countries like Europe, they'll tell you the way they want their documents to be done. Like maybe they don't want it handwritten, maybe they don't want it, maybe they want it typed. Maybe it has to be typed before their customs in that country will accept it. So these are like some of the different experiences I've had over time with different countries that I've exported to. So let me go into the slides that I have here properly. So Nigeria's top 5 commodity exports are crude petroleum, petroleum gas, refined petroleum, cocoa beans, gold. So if we look at it for some years now, petroleum and petroleum products has always been like the top exports from Nigeria, especially from Nigeria. But before the advent of the petroleum, we all know that Nigeria was like the uh, top exporter in Africa when it comes to some of the agricultural commodities like groundnuts, like cocoa beans, and others. And we've all heard stories, different stories of how the Awolowos, of how the forefathers of the country actually built Nigeria on revenue or yes, on foreign exchange that is gotten from agricultural commodities exports. So after the discovery of petroleum and the Nigerian leaders then decided to just do away with all this agricultural export and focus on petroleum alone. While everyone was focusing on this petroleum, yes, there was a lot of money in petroleum. It looks huge, it looks big. It did not actually mean that the agricultural commodities that we have, it doesn't mean that it went away or it went out of the market. There are still some people or few people who were focused on the agricultural commodities then, who were still exporting it and still making billions, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars from it, because even as at then, people don't really know about it again. Because later on, there was no groundnut pyramid in the country again. There was no, you don't see all the structures or what makes us superpowers in agricultural commodities export anymore. But there are some few people who knows what was happening, who knows how everything came about, and they were trading. So before the establishment of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, when the CEO DG then was Mr. Awolowo, which is Mr. son of Obafemi, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. So now, during his tenure and during the time that the NEPC was established, they tried to, decentralize the whole export thing to everybody so that anyone can actually come into play into the export market. You can start doing your own containerized export. So it wasn't just limited to the elite anymore. It wasn't just like maybe it's the rich people or it's the wealthy people that can only export something out of the country, 5 containers, 10 containers, because there are still some commodities in Nigeria that even as of today, a lot of people don't know about. A lot of people don't know they export it because like maybe there are 5 people in the country, or maybe there are 4 people, 3 people in the country that just form like an association around it, and nobody is able to like prod into the market or into the industry. So but with the help of the NEPC, it has made the information open or available to everybody. And now that the crude oil, the petroleum, now that leaders can see that uh, the money they are getting from it can actually come to an end, or maybe it's not that sustainable that like they thought it was going to last forever. So now people are now looking back into agriculture. They are looking back into alternative national income that can add up to the country's GDP. So they are looking at agricultural commodities. People are now talking about non-oil exports, which wasn't like that, before. So this has, given us a lot of opportunities in the country that we can actually, young people can actually, you can start your own product or your own farm and you can export to other countries. Nigeria's other notable exports are coconut, Brazil nuts, and cashew nuts. You can see like the amount of money that can be gotten from that was gotten from it in a year. Other oily seeds, we have scrap vessels, there's rough wood, there's nitrogenous fertilizers. For the rough wood, we have wood, a lot of wood in Nigeria, even though the market is not as structured as other markets, like I taught in the class for commodities overview in Nigeria and West Africa when I was trying to detail the all the type of wood you can get in Cameroon, for instance. So in that slide, in that lecture, I mentioned all the wood, the popular ones, the ones that exported before. I tried to detail everything into that class also. So, and then the top destinations for Nigerian products are India, Spain, United States, France, South Africa. Well, for different commodities, we have top destinations. So, like for India, for instance, I can say India, they buy a lot of our cashew nuts, a lot of our cashew nuts, India, Vietnam, Bangladesh. They buy a lot of our cashew nuts. When it comes to wood, logs and all that, Vietnam buy a lot of wood. India also buy, but Vietnam is a top destination for that. When it comes to dimension stones, granite, uh, metal ores, a lot of metal ores, they go to China. They go to China basically because now China is now the manufacturing capital of the whole world. So when you know that all the semiconductors, all the mobile phones, the laptops, the technological tools that we use today, most of them are produced, manufactured in China. So metal ores that are used to make all these things in their productions has to go to China. So when it comes to metal ore, even just writing companies, production companies who consume or make use of some of these metal ores in China, you can get a good export contract from just by writing down, just by writing them, reaching out to them. So, which you can do through Google, which can be done through Google. So, now, let's go into. I just wanted to show us those figures just to highlight one or two things before we go into the operations and management side. So, market familiarity, which is understand the market. So basically, the reason why the lecture is starting off in this way is because um, a lot of time in our classes, in our lectures like this, whether physical or online, people just feel like, okay, I want to export, I want to start exporting, but apart from the fact that maybe they don't know what to do, maybe they don't know the process, maybe they are trying to learn. Thing is, they are not patient enough to really understand how exporting work or to really understand the export business. Some people just want to say that, oh, I want to start exporting. Then by next week, I've already had something I want to export. Then in 2 weeks, I've exported. By the end of the month, I have money in my bank account to show for it that I've exported. So it doesn't work like that. Even the exporting process, like there's a shipment, there's a shipment of ours, my company that should be on the vessel. Today is 23. So because of the festive period, it's supposed to go on the 19th. There's a vessel on the 19th. We missed that vessel for one or two reasons. The next vessel, which will be like maybe 20 after Christmas, maybe 27 or 26. Now, this is December 26. Now, we've been on this same shipment since November. I mean, just the logistics process since November. So it's taking us almost 2 months just to get a container to enter into the port. So by the time the container enters into the port, loads on the vessel, it will still take about, let's say, maybe 30 days for it to get to Europe, because it's actually going to Europe. And where it's going to Europe is very close to Turkey. I don't want to mention country itself. It's close to Turkey, which makes me still a little bit far. If the container was going to, let's say, China, for instance, it might take up to maybe 40 days or 40 plus days. So even just the logistics process alone takes time. Then talk less of when you have a lot of containers to work on, a lot of orders to meet, to execute and all that. So when you look at it, you have to, one, be very patient, and you have to really understand what you are doing. That is, you have to understand the market. So the first thing I usually advise everyone or everybody is to um really research what they want to do and understand what they want to do. So it's not about maybe calling yourself an exporter or that you just want to export. So okay, like if you've listened to the first two classes or the first two lectures I sent you into our WhatsApp group, you will see that I I I made sure that I talk about prospective exporters sitting down and planning the business. So you have to plan the business ahead. If you don't plan the business ahead, it will it will give you a lot of problem, or you get to some point whereby you get tired, or you get distracted, or you just get bored. So it might not be that, okay, maybe I want to start exporting full time. For you, it might be part time, might be a side hustle, and it might be full time. It depends on the capacity, the financial capacity, the information that we have, the network, the contacts, all these are different factors that will, that will determine how you start and how far you can go in the business. So sometimes it's not really about, do I have 1 million naira in my account now to start? Do I have 3 million naira in my account now to start? Do I have 500K? Do I have, how much am I supposed to use to start? So it's not really about how much you need to as capital to start. Yes, you need money to, to do any business or to go into any business. And when you plan this ahead, then you start. It will help you to know how to start. Like, am I supposed to start as an active exporter? Am I supposed to start as maybe a commodities broker, merchant? Am I supposed to just be a financial investor, or should I just go into freight forwarding logistics, just like the entry points that I gave in the previous classes? So now let's go into this slide properly. Understanding the market. In order to develop your export business into a success, you should make sure that you understand your target market. So I've said that is either you are exporting your own local product, the product that you are producing or manufacturing yourself, which is one. Two is either you just select maybe any of the commodities that we have in the country for export. Either way, you need to know who your target market is or are. So let's say a popular, let me use mango. Everybody knows mango. Some people might not even know what cashew nut is, but everybody knows what mango is. So let's say you want to export mango, and the company told you that for you to export this mango to us, you have to maybe shred it into pieces, dry it, and all that. Then you send it to us. So for you to export mango, who are your target audience, or who do you think your target audience is going to be? Basically, looking at it, maybe it's going to be companies that maybe they make a product and that has mango flavor. So it could be drinks, it could be snacks, it could be maybe like biscuits. So when you do your research, all these things I'm mentioning now means you have to sit with maybe your laptop and start Googling and all that. So even if you use your Google very well, it might even narrow you down to a list of companies that need that uh, commodity or that product that you've selected that you want to be exporting. So it could narrow you down to like 5 different companies, maybe in different area, maybe in the same area, that use that commodity as their raw material or maybe as their feedstock or anything. And you will have access to just call them, send them emails, or send them messages. And when you do that, they will respond because that's also their area. That's also what they are using as feedstock or as raw material. So this means you have to do some research about your export destinations. So now, like I said earlier, that our Nigeria's top export destination depends on the commodity. So which commodity like cashew nuts, sesame seeds, shea nuts, shea butter, cocoa beans, um, we have cattle, we have copper, we have coal, we have gold, we have lithium, we have manganese, we have iron. These are exportable metals from the northern part of the country. So if you look at all those metals, where are they needed the most? Where maybe like manufacturing centers, do we have manufacturing centers that actually make use of these metals? So those are the places you are targeting. So if you are targeting those kind of countries, you now need to research how do they take import? What are the processes in that country? What are certifications that they need in that country? So that's what it means. The second bullet that says this means you have to do some research about your export destinations. So for the next bullet, I said it allows you to access market opportunities and the cost of capturing them. That's what you studying your market. That's what it does. So you have the ideas, the information that leads to opportunities in the market will be at your fingertip. So you can now know that okay, what am I going to do for me to capture this market? Okay, am I going through online, offline? Do I have to travel there? Do I have to meet their manager? Do I have to meet the CEO? Do I have to meet the procurement officer? Do I have to send an email proposal? Should I send them maybe messages on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn? Am I supposed to? So you know what it's going to cost you by doing your research. Good research should not be an academic way of only embedding assembled facts and figures. So the market research you want to do as an exporter is for you to be able to, source for an export contract that will be suitable for you at the end of the day. Not like maybe we are presenting it for scores or for academic results. No. So the major aim of your research is to make sure that by the time you try to reach out to the importing companies or to the importing countries, you get their attention, you get a feedback, a positive feedback, you get them to the negotiating table. Then at the end of the day, you get to sign an export contract together. Then it rather has to focus on what drives your target market, and how to get the best out of it. So it has to focus on what drives your target market. That is, what whichever market you are targeting around there. Maybe it's just factories. Maybe it's maybe it's factories that they are still going to. They are not going to produce a finished product. Maybe it's just semi products they make, and they will still have to supply like another company that will now make the finished product out of the commodity. So you need to know, okay, what's going to drive them? What are the things that they are going to require? Or what are the things that they need that will also give you a competitive edge? Or what are the things they need that you will have to develop a competitive edge so that they will gladly take in or buy into whatever you are selling to them or that you are exporting to them. So, okay, next slide. Where is it? Okay, so tips to understand the market. One, gather basic market information from import regulations to trade statistics. You can make use of several freely available market analysis tools. Yes, you get a lot of these tools online from Google. So you have to gather basic market information. You can reach out to different agencies. You can reach out to different offices, ask them that okay, you want to send out your product or items or commodities to so countries or to their own country, and you need like data from them. The data you are requesting for is like, let's say, maybe associations that actually deal in that commodity located in that country. So like shea butter for now, like shea butter for instance, I know shea butter has an international association. Yes, there's a shea butter they have an international association, and they are in like maybe 50 countries around the world. So these are kind of the information that you need. So trade statistics like in this country, how many or what's the volume of the commodity that was bought? In this country, what's the volume of the commodity that was bought? In this country, what's the volume that was bought? So you can know the exact figure to actually look out for, or that you can work with. So you can analyze and know that okay, I can only do maybe 0.5% of the supply that is being done to this country, or I can only do 1%, or I can only make up with 5%. So this allows you to have a broad view of what you are into or of what you want to do. So two is narrow the focus of your research to your product or service. This will make the whole process more specific. So just like I said yesterday in previous class, that you can't work on all the commodities all together at one time. You should just select at least two or at most two commodities to work with. This will allow you to really focus on them. Research competitor markets, find out what they are doing right and how they are doing it. So there are lots of competitors in the export market, especially in our agricultural commodities export market, some of which, or some of whom are also the people that will sell to, or the people that will export to, who are the importers. So who will also come into the country to come and export, to come and compete with you. So it happens a lot. You see a lot of them. So why will they sell more than you in your own country? So this is also uh, one of the things that you have to research and look into. At the same time, too, if you also look at it that you have your own local product, this kind of research will really help you. So if you are the one, maybe you are producing stockfish, dried stockfish, dried snail, um, soup spices, maybe fabric wares and all that, and you package it. You are looking at it that a time will come you can produce in large volume, have it packed up in a container, and you are shipping to another country. You really need to make a research of your competition out there, because that's where all these standards, Organization of Nigeria, SON, NAFDAC, or what have you, that's where they come into the play. But if you are not actually producing your own food product branded by you, if that's not what you are doing, but you just want to look into commodities, just commodities out there, you don't need um all those extra licenses or extra registration with NAFDAC, SON and all that. Except if specifically outlined by the importer or the importing company or country, in which they will be buying a very large volume of the commodity from you, and the contracts they will be having with you will be very favorable for you to take those extra steps, So it's going to be very favorable. So but apart from that, it's not needed. Attend market specific seminars, seek out practical advice from experienced businessmen, So you seek out practical advice from those they are doing exports, they are doing the business. So there are several trade fairs, expos organized by banks, organized by the NAPC, organized by different organizations out there. In fact, in neighboring countries, West Africa, you can attend, not just in Nigeria alone, Ghana, Togo, Niger, they have all these kind of programs, events that will really expose you, connect you, and increase your contact. So develop direct contact with potential buyers too. Direct contact in the sense that try to meet them. Try to meet them. If you have to travel to their office or to their country, make sure to do that. You can make sure of several freely available online directories. Okay, you can make use of that. All listed in the manual for international buyer sourcing course. Okay, that's not the course we are having here. So, but you can make use of several freely available online directories. You can search if you are not in the country, if you are not in Nigeria, for instance, you can make use of like the embassy of your embassy over there to search to say that okay, maybe you can get a list of uh, importers or a list of suppliers or a list of merchants that you can work with. So even if both of you are doing the same thing, like for instance, let's say you are supplying maize, you met a merchant who also supplies maize. The other merchant who also supply maize might be supplying his own maize for 500,000 per ton. You might be supplying your own maize for 200,000 per ton. So it will pay him to just buy the maize from you and still do his own supply and still make gain. So sometimes it's not really about maybe because someone is doing the same thing that you are doing, doesn't mean both of you can still work together. So it happens a lot that while exporting a particular commodity, you met another exporter of that same commodity. I know of a commodity like that we export. Our quotes used to be around $300,000. I met another person who does the same for maybe a million, maybe like a million naira, you know. So that's like a difference of 700,000 naira. When you look at it, if we don't get export contracts immediately, I can just talk to him as a colleague and say, oh, let's supply you what we have. We when you buy from us, we make our own gain and you export it to your own client. You still make your own gain. So this happens a lot in the market. That's why in the first lecture, I spoke about you connecting with different merchants. It is very important because even from those merchants or from those merchant brokers that you are dealing in the same commodity, you get good and profitable contracts. You get good and profitable contracts. Then try to understand the market environment, relevant trade fairs, attend relevant trade fairs, and embassies are good sources of information. Try to understand the market environment where you want to export to, attend relevant trade fairs, visit embassies in the US, in the UK, wherever you are, try to visit embassies. You can get a whole load of information from there concerning the country, concerning the people who are top buyers of a particular commodity coming from Nigeria. Coming from Nigeria. So there's no product that is not exported from Nigeria, just that the destinations are different. And these are the things, or these are the key things that you have to find out or that you need to find out. So exporter documentation exporter documentation process. So this documentation process, like I said earlier in the class, will help you to know what you are looking at or what you are looking for when you want to export or when you are exporting. During the process, this particular area is usually managed by the freight forwarder or by your freight forwarder, which means that looking at it is not a must that you you know how this is done by yourself. Like you might not be the one going from one office to another doing all this documentation. You might not be the one uh, putting in the work. So this is just a phase of the business that someone else can actually take care of. Like for instance, as I am taking this class, I'm waiting for a bill of lading for a shipment. As I'm waiting for that bill of lading, um in my office taking this class, but there's someone there on the field who is going around. Before the bill of lading can be ready, he has to make some clearance and all that. I'm not the one doing all those movements, but my freight forwarder, he is the freight forwarder. So I can be where I am and all the documentation process will be done. Even if I'm not in the country, the documentation process will be done and the commodity will be loaded and it will get to its destination. So that's one thing about this process. So it's not limited or by your absence or by your presence because you can actually outsource it to a freight forwarder. And if you like, you can now learn the uh, the intricacies of freight forwarding and start doing your own documentation yourself. It will save you a lot of money, but You spend a lot of time doing that. So, and the freight forwarding, like I said in previous class, it's a profession. It's a profession, and people make their own money from that area. And you can even there are even some trade schools, there are some institutions that's what they offer as the course, as the main course of study, which is freight forwarding. So that's something you can do yourself or you can give out. So now in the documentation processes, I'm going to have listed all the documentation that you need here, and I'm going to be going through it one after the other till we are done. Okay, I think the documentation process is it takes more of all the slides here. So one, registration of the business name or company. Okay, so for air freight, if you are exporting via air freight, your business name is okay, or enterprise is good enough. But if you are exporting and it has to do with containerized, export cargoes, you have to be registered as a limited liability company. You have to be registered as a limited liability company. So the first step when starting out as an exporter in Nigeria is to register the name of the export business with the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC, Limited Liability Company. Uh, every export business in Nigeria must have a registered office in Nigeria. Yes, if you are exporting from here, you must have a registered office. It is a prerequisite requirement that every export business in Nigeria must have a registered office, either residential or commercial. So now, after which you register with the NEPC, Nigerian Export Promotion Council. So if you read that, you see the Nigerian Customs Service rules for every exporter or operating export business in Nigeria must be registered with the NEPC. At a point, and on the customs portal, there is an account for all exporters where they key in your detail, where they put in the name of your company and all that. So for them to do that, they will require your NEPC registration number. And for you to get that NEPC registration number, you have to be registered with the NEPC. So that's how it works. If you are not registered with the NEPC, you cannot have the NEPC registration number. So that's one of the reasons why you have to be registered with them. So once you are registered with the NEPC, you can now activate your account on the customs portal, so that whenever or anytime you are traveling, so that whenever or anytime you have to send out a shipment, send out your container, they are going to use that number. It's needed. So there's still something I'm going to talk about called Form NXP. For that Form NXP, before you can, open a Form NXP, before you can open a Form NXP, you have to key in your your NEPC registration number, just as you are doing your company details. So when you're asked for your CAC document, NEPC certificate, and the others, you put in the numbers on it. So when you put in those numbers, those are the things that makes it because it has to be active. Like the NEPC registration number right now, if it's awarded to you now, it's only spent maybe a year or two before it expires. Once it expires, you have to renew it. You have to pay for renewal for it to be active. On that portal, it will show maybe it's active or it's inactive. So if it's inactive, that means you have to register for, for the certificate. You have to renew the certificate. So you just pay a little amount to the commission and they get it done for you. So okay, document issued a signed export contract. So if you are going to export, you will need a signed export contract. The export contract has to be signed by both you and the importer, that is the person who is buying from you. This document is issued by you as exporter or the importer. So anyone between you and the importer and the person who is buying from you can actually issue the export contract. So you can be the one to design the export contract, send it to the importer. The importer can be the one to write out the contract and send it to you. Both of you will look at it together, the the dealings, the prices, the time frame and all that. If it's okay, if it's agreed by both parties, you both sign it. You sign it, he also signs it. So it's issued by you and the importer. And so it's relevant because it spells out the obligation of buyers and sellers. That's why your export contract is very important. So whether the importer is giving you a, a, a payment, an advance payment, whether he's giving you part payment, whether he's giving you money as soon as the container lands at the port, or maybe it's when he receives the container. Whatever the agreement is, it has to be spelled out in the contract. And the contract is very important. Now you have the quality assurance document. Quality assurance document that has to come with the documentation process. This quality assurance document is just one of the documents that your freight forwarder is going to get for you. So like some of the documents here, you will be the one to write them out, make them out. For some, there are stuff that maybe third-party organization has to issue for you, like the quality assurance document, which is just assuring that okay, the commodities in the container are good. It's not like maybe they are bad or they've spoiled, so they still have good time on it. You have the phytosanitary certificate for agricultural commodities. That certificate, right now, once you have your bill of lading and all that, you go to all these organizations and ask them to issue you a certificate for your consignment, for your container. So you just go there with the whole information and they'll give it to you. So now these organizations that issue all these, they have offices in different places. So this is one of the reasons why giving this process out to your freight forwarder sometimes can or might be the best decision for you. But if you know that you have the time to move around all the offices and get the certificate done, you can just wait and do the movement yourself. Phytosanitary certificate is usually for agricultural commodities. There's also veterinary certificate. Veterinary certificate is usually for like if you're exporting anything and it has anything that has to do with meat, anything that has to do with livestock in it, anything that has to do with meat, maybe like dried fish. Maybe you are exporting a container and one of the goods, it has maybe dried fish or smoked or dried meat. Let me see, dried meat in it. you have to get a veterinary certificate showing that that meat has been tested, it has been looked into, and it's good, it's fine, it's good for human consumption, doesn't contain any bacteria that will affect them over there. Same thing for phytosanitary, for all the agricultural commodity or products that you have in that same container. Then you also have health certificate for processed and semi-processed food items. That one is usually issued by NAFDAC. It's usually issued by NAFDAC. So you need to have that also, that health certificate. It has to be there. So the health certificate is issued by NAFDAC office. Uh, so maybe it's a finished or maybe it's not finished. As long as it's food item, is packed, they will issue a health certificate. Now, this health certificate is not that it doesn't mean you register your product with NAFDAC. Doesn't mean your product has NAFDAC number. The health certificate is just to show that, oh, we checked the container or the products inside it, they are good, they are fine, they are okay. When it comes to cleanliness, healthiness, is fine. It's, takes the pass mark. That is what the health certificate from NAFDAC is. It's not that maybe you have to register or go for NAFDAC registration number and all that. So fumigation certificate is also part of it. It's also for agricultural commodities to avoid spoilage and all that. So you need fumigation certificate. Now we have commercial documents. Some of the commercial documents is one is a commercial invoice. Commercial invoice indicating the values of goods for export in the currency of transaction. The commercial invoice is usually issued by you, the exporter, because after you and the importer have agreed on the money, on the sum and all that, you have to be the one to issue the commercial invoice to the importer. So the commercial invoice will also contain maybe like your bank account details and other details that the importer must have or should have. Then we have the packing list. The packing list indicates the unit packaging and total quantity of goods intended for export. That's packing list indicating the unit packaging and total quantity of goods intended for export. So like the commercial invoice, okay, like with our own portal in Nigeria now, the three like documents they will require from you at customs is commercial invoice, pro forma invoice, and your packing list. The commercial invoice and the pro forma invoice, they are the same thing. Your packing list is just similar to commercial invoice, but different. So why did I say similar? It's similar because it lists all the commodities or everything that you loaded into the container. But the difference is instead of putting the cost or the price and the total price and all that in the packing list, it will just be the gross weight of those commodities, then the net weight. That is what we want to see in your packing list. We want to see the total weight of the commodity. So that's what is. So a packing list is a document that includes details about the content of a package. It's intended to let transport agency, government authorities, and customers know the contents of the package. Then these details help each of these parties handle the package accordingly. So they know the weight, the gross weight, the net weight, and all that from your packing list, but they know the price, the total price of the whole contract, what it's worth from the commercial invoice, So, okay, next slide. Then down to your financial documents. We have the pro forma invoice. So I spoke about that pro forma invoice just now. So a pro forma invoice is a preliminary bill of sale sent to buyer in advance of a shipment or delivery of goods. The invoice will typically describe the purchased item and other important information such as the shipping weight and transport charges. So usually, if needed, you might have to send pro forma invoice to your buyer or to your importer, which just shows a preliminary invoice and not like the finite invoice for the commodities that you are sending to his country. So, but in any case, this pro forma invoice is usually not used or not required, except when you get to the customs and you just have to duplicate what you have in order for the for customs official to document what you're actually pushing through the through the port. So your pro forma invoice is basically just like your commercial invoice, but on your commercial invoice, it's a must that you add your account details, your financial account details, which indicates where you are expecting payment, from the importer, So another document that is issued is the Nigeria Export Proceed, which is NXP, or which is called Form NXP. It is usually issued by the commercial bank or the bank that you are using. Okay, on this slide, the Form NXP is a mandatory statutory document to be completed by all exporters for shipment of goods outside Nigeria. A duly completed NXP form, 6 copies. Okay, so let's stop it at outside Nigeria. So because now the NXP or the Form NXP is something that you can do yourself online, though your bank will be the one to approve the Form NXP. So you just have to go online, register for these Form NXP, go to tradesystem.gov.ng, then you register for your Form NXP. You start a non-oil application. So by the time you are done, you submit it. You would have chosen a bank. In filling the form, you choose your bank and put in your bank details. So once you submit that form, the CBN will they'll send an email straight to your bank. And your bank will now contact you and help you to finalize the Form NXP. So once your Form NXP is open, it means that you are ready to export what you have documented in the Form NXP. Everything you've selected or written means you are ready to actually export that. And that Form NXP, you are going to use it till you get the bill of lading, because the details on your Form NXP will also reflect in the bill of lading for that same shipment. The Form NXP, okay, let me see. The Form NXP is relevant because it captures the value of the export transaction for economic development purposes. It is also a major prerequisite for accessing the export expansion grants or export incentive. Now, for economic development purposes, like I started to say, like in the start of this class, that before the NEPC was established, before the whole export process was decentralized for people to enter into. A lot of people export different commodities from Nigeria, like a certain group of people can just come together, form a union or an association around a particular commodity, and use that as business and export to other countries without even letting people know what is going on. So in order to really, which was affecting calculations for the country's GDP, uh, the governments of the country couldn't really assess, couldn't really have a concise calculation on what is really going out of the country. Even till date, uh, there are several loopholes everywhere. The borders are not well structured. There are different movements. So, but that's for that reason they created the form NXP. So once you open a form NXP and you close that form NXP, like you are done with it, you exported and all that, the CBN continues to track that form NXP. So let's say the form NXP you open this for has a total of let's say 50,000 US dollars for the shipment. And after you've done the shipment, they are expecting that $50,000 to come to your inflow account, that is your dollar account. So the CBN will be looking at that your account. They will be monitoring it for the inflow, because the from NXP you created and you've exported, the money has to come in. So if in 6 months, 8 months time they don't see anything, will write your bank will write you to ask what's happening. Maybe you've diverted the funds or anything. So if they don't get the money for, maybe I think there's a time frame for it, your account might be flagged. Your account might be flagged, and let's say for some reasons it could also affect your export license. So all these things you have to also like put into consideration. So like if your buyer or if the importer hasn't paid you, you can easily write your bank and tell them to give you an extension that the importer is going to pay so time, that the importer is still going to pay. So your bank will they'll forward your extension request to the CBN, and the CBN will grant you an extension for that. So this has also affected me before. There was a time when I had like two different NXPs that the money wasn't coming in. So until it got to a time, my bank had to start sending mails and all that. In fact, we have that issue all the time, but when you are already experienced in the business, then you know how to seek extension from your bank so that it doesn't affect whatever you are doing. Now, another document you have to issue is the commercial invoice. We've spoken about the commercial invoice. We've spoken about that. Determining, okay, issued by you, the exporter. Yeah, your commercial invoice is issued by you, just as the way you make your pro forma invoice and your packing list, your export contracts. Those are documents that you have to be the one to come up with them to issue them. Okay. Okay. Yes. Your commercial invoice is relevant because it indicates the value of the goods for export in currency of transaction, which is useful in processing of the NXP. Yes, whatever currency you use in your invoice is also the currency you must use in the application of your form NXP. Else, the bank will write you or call you to let you know. Usually, when you make any error or mistake in your application for form NXP, your bank will call you to explain what you are supposed to do. So you can also have a final invoice depending on the kind of importer you are working with. So you can have a final invoice you are also going to be the one to issue it. It has the actual value of goods exported in currency of transaction. So for the purpose of payment by the importer. We also have goods movement documents like clean certificate of inspection, the CCI. CCIs are like, okay, let's say you have a container of goods ready for shipment now. Maybe you have it somewhere in Surulere, in Yaba, and you want to start moving the container to the port. Before you load the container into before you load your goods into the container, it's good you reach out to what we call as pre-shipment inspection agencies, which is the PIAs. They will come and check out and supervise. They'll come and check out what you loaded into the container. Like they will see it to be sure that this is what you actually loaded and they are all good. So that's because afterwards they have to issue you a clean certificate of inspection. It's relevant because it ascertains the quality, quantity, and price competitiveness of your product, of the products that you actually loaded in it. It will declare the quantity and the quality. Then it will help the Nigerian government to assess their own price competitiveness when comparing with other exports from neighboring countries or other countries. Another document is certificate of weight and quality. It's issued by independent assessment agencies at the port. Usually, it's only if you're importer or it's only if both of you have agreed on this. That's when people usually get it. So, like me, for instance, I don't usually get the certificate because the importer I'm supplying or who is buying from me already trust my brand, already trust that, if this is the weight of the product in it, or if this is the quantity of what was requested, that's actually what in the container. So for some people, it might not be like that. For some importers, maybe for one reason or another, they don't trust that if you say it is 5 tons, if you say it is 30 tons, it's the same 30 tons that is there. So they will now ask that, we want a third party to come and weigh it before it's shipped to us. So the certificate that is issued to you by that third party, you have to also attach it to the document that you are going to be sending with the bill of lading to that importer so that they can now look at it and say, our third party also said it is 30 tons. So that by the time they open it over there, they won't call you and say, we only met 29 tons, we met 28 tons, or we didn't meet up to the number of tons that you said you sent. So this is relevant because it ensures the goods conform to the quality standards and weight as stated in the contract, Then we have the certificate of origin. So this certificate of origin, your importer might tell you that maybe he doesn't mind if the product is coming from other country, maybe neighboring countries, in which maybe you have to use their port. Sometimes some people bring in goods to Nigeria and export through Nigerian ports with a Nigerian certificate of origin. I don't think that is legal though. So it's relevant because it indicates the origin of goods needed for example, trade agreements benefits. So after you've gotten all these documents, your container is allowed loaded on the vessel. The shipping company will issue a bill of lading. It indicates the details of goods transactions by every detail. will be on this bill of lading. So when you have these old documents, all the documents with you, you can now put them together, because what it means is, okay, you have all the documents, then you should send it to your importer, because that's what the importer will use to clear the container when it lands at the port of destination, So according to your export contract, the both of you might have agreed that once I have the documents showing me that the container has been loaded on the vessel, or showing me that it's in the care of the shipping company and this is the bill of lading, I pay you immediately. So if that's the case, your importer pays you, or you request for payment from him. And if that's not the case, maybe you have to wait till he clears the container and he now makes payment. But whatever the case may be, you have all the documentations done. Okay, so that will be the end of today's lecture. That will be the end of today's lecture. So I'm going to just take one or two questions from us, especially from Emmanuel, who started the class from beginning. So if anyone has any question, kindly raise your hand, or just unmute yourself and ask away.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Once again.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you very much. I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Or rather, about two.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, I appreciate the time out you had for this meeting. Honestly, I've been expecting and waiting to reach this day. Thank God you were able to deem it fit to help us out. I really appreciate. God bless you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. What I want to ask is with respect to the freight forwarding, like their charges, is it based on the nature of the goods or the tonnage? Or is there a benchmark for that they use to give out their charges? Then based on the documentations as well, are the charges, as in, does it have effect? Does the documentations that they're going to provide to you as well, does it have effect on the charge that they are going to give to you?
Okay,
for?
yeah. Okay, I understand what your question is. Okay,
Yeah,
so
then
okay,
okay.
go
Then
ahead.
the one I want to ask is with respect to the vessel. When you talk about a vessel shipment you missed. Now, delays as a result of those logistics and all that, obviously there will be some charges or there will be some losses involved. And even as the days are counting, I believe that some losses are going to be involved as well. Is it you that pays for it, or the importer, or both of you share the loss, or any amount or anything that is incurred? Then finally, the commercial and pro forma invoice packing list, do they have a particular format that is generally acceptable, or any format can be used for it?
Okay, all right. Okay,
That's also.
okay. For the pro forma invoice and commercial invoice, any format, there is no specified format. So any format goes. The only thing is, when you get to the customs, if there's anything missing, usually because the way you calculate your invoice is not, and packing list is not the way customs usually do their own. So when you get to customs, they will give you the format they want you to use. The format will now be dependent on what you are shipping out, the commodity, maybe foodstuff, maybe agricultural commodities, maybe it's wood. So customs will give you the format they want you to use, because usually they don't want you to state, they won't allow you to put out, like maybe you have 50 different products in that container. Maybe it's food stuff now. You have Maggi, you have beans, you have rice, you have snail, you have fish, you have meat, you have different things. They won't allow you list it like that. So there's a way they will now give you that, okay, just write so and so, put the weight, put the net weight, the gross weight, and for your invoice, put this, put this. For the packing list, they will ask you where to put your container number, container details, and all that. So that's the only thing. So, but when you are relating with the importer, with the person who is buying from you, you can send the person any format of commercial invoice, and packing list is accepted. But it's only at the Nigerian customs that I know that. And most of the time, you might, if you are using a freight forwarder, he might not even tell you. He will just be the one to do that with the when he gets to customs. When he gets to customs. So the other question about the when someone sees a shipment, when a vessel or that kind of thing, maybe you now have to make some losses and all that. Now it depends. Covering for losses is dependent on a lot of factors, like maybe when you were paying your freight forwarders, maybe they are also the one handling your logistics and all that, or maybe the logistics company, and you've paid a whole lot of money to them, including all these other services. So if there's any delay, you might actually not be the one to incur loss, or maybe something happened during the call up process. Maybe they missed the call up, they have to renew their call up, or maybe their booking expired and they have to quickly go and revalidate the booking. They have to make some payments, maybe 10,000 here, 20,000 there, another 5,000 here. So it might be the logistics company that will be doing all that on their own, that will be covering for all that. It might be the freight forwarder that is, that is delaying, or maybe that did some errors, made some errors and all that. They will be the one to cover all that because they've already billed you for the service and you have paid them. Like if, for instance, you already paid maybe 600,000 naira or 700,000 naira for a logistics company to come to maybe Shagam, load maybe 40 feet container of wood and take it to Apapa port now. Then on the road, it now happened that their truck broke down. Then after their truck broke down, it spent a week before they started moving it. But in the contract they gave you, they already told you that once this thing, maybe at so time, if this happen or that happen, maybe you start paying demurrage for the container on their truck. Now that the truck now broke down for a week, and you know it has now gotten to that time when you are supposed to be paying for demurrage because it has taken longer time. They will be the one to be covering it, not you, because the fault has come from them. The fault has come from them. So, but in another case, let's say something that affects the importer or you directly, maybe based on, usually it's usually based on maybe like the importer issued you a letter of credit, now, and the letter of credit is now getting to its expiry date. Let's say you now have a week to expiry and your container is already at the port, and you know that even if the container is loaded on the vessel, it will still take like a month or maybe 30 plus days for the container to get to the importer and all that. All you just have to do in order not to make any losses is to make sure you let the importer knows that the container is already at the port. Just call his attention, let him know that he should extend the LC. So you can write him, he will inform his bank and the bank will extend the date on the LC, like, okay, extend it by a month, extend it by 6 weeks so that the container can get to their own destination, they can clear it and make payment for that. So, but any other thing, sometimes the logistics company can be funny. What they do is after you've paid them, if anything now happens, the driver will be telling you that he can't reach the manager, that he has been calling the manager is not picking. By the time you also start calling the manager, you won't be able to get through to the manager too. So the driver will ask you to send him money directly so that he can quickly fix whatever he has to fix and move. So in that case, if you don't have much time on your hand, you can quickly send him money, he'll fix it, he will start moving towards the post. By the time you are able to get to the manager, you can collect your money from the manager. If you are not able to collect the money, then maybe you know that maybe when you are doing business with them again, they are owing you that, or maybe you won't do business with them again. So that decision is really now dependent on you. But all those kind of extra cost, or extra logistics cost in why the container is still in your care, because don't forget, as at that time, the importer does not bear any risk or liability on the container, because everything is still in your care. So you'll be the one to just be paying for all those like extra charges. But once the container now gets to him, he now bears the risk for that container. If anything happens, you'll be the one to have to pay anything or clear and all that. So that's just how it works for the charges and loss mitigation. So for the first question about the freight forwarder, the way they bill, the documentation cost pricing. The way it works is that if you are sending or if you are shipping out just one container, the price they give you is like a standard price. But if you have like 5 containers, the price is not usually that high. So like the documentation process that you do for one container, it's almost the same cost when you are doing it for 5 containers, because especially when that 5 containers is the same commodity. So let's say you have 540 feet container and the what's in it is cashew nut, or what's in it is sesame seed. It's the same documentation. So you just do that documentation. The only thing that will just be different in the documentation is on that one paper, they will be writing 5 times 40 feet container. That's all. 5 times 40 feet container. So it means that the container is 5, it's not 1. On the bill of lading that you are going to get also is 1 that the shipping company will give you. So the shipping company won't give you 5 bill of ladings because it's 5 containers. They only give you 1. That one will now state like container numbers, the container detail on it. So that's what the documentation will do. So it's not like it's going to be different. So because of that, you don't spend much on a whole lot of, even if the container you have is 50. So it won't be like compared to 1, because when you are comparing the cost of you spend on 1 container, it's usually a lot of money. So you can be spending, so your freight forwarder can give you a bill of maybe at the end of the day you are spending 400,000 naira, or you are spending 500,000 naira. So like apart from logistics, apart from the money the truck, you have to pay for your truck to move container from one point to the port. So but apart from that, maybe your freight forwarder give you a bill of 400,000 naira for 1 container. So when you are doing 2 containers, the cost on it might not be more than 500,000. When you are doing 1 container, you say you paid 400. So when you are doing 2, maybe you are now paying 500,000. So that's the way it is. So it's not approximate to the number of containers you are doing, because most of the documentation, it will still be done on one paper. It will still be done on one paper, not multiple. So in fact, the reason why they spend more when doing more container, the reason why they spend little more is just because they have to maybe give this person money, give that one money, because all those processes. The only reason why it even looks like sometimes the freight forwarders can give some bill and we look at it that is high is just because they have to give some people money. by the side. So that's just the reasons. So I hope I answered those questions that way.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay, so we've come to the end of this class. I'm going to drop the link on the WhatsApp group. Then 10 a.m. tomorrow, because tomorrow is holiday, so there's no work. I'm also going to be seated in front of the system by 10 a.m. Sharp by the grace of God. So we'll have a wonderful time tomorrow. So thank you everybody and have a great day.